Welcome back. Yes, indeed. Today, depends on how you look at it. Several events that have been scheduled to hold today. One of them, this protest, this planned protest. There's been this consistent call, if I could use that word, for the sack of service chiefs, the call to do something a little differently concerning security in the country, more so the fight against insurgents. We do have two gentlemen to start the segment off with us here today. We've got first, Honorable Dachun Bagos is a member of the Anti-Corruption Committee of the House of Representatives. He's a member of the PDP. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, this is a call that the House they've looked into this themselves. I think the Senate have also talked about this, and the conversation is out there. And when the House decided, first of all, that was a resolution by the House asking that the service chiefs be replaced. But, the thing about all of this is that those who then ask the questions, what becomes of the resolution of the House afterwards? Because at the moment, nothing has moved.
Yeah, well, not just a member of Anti-Corruption Committee, I'm still a member of National Security and Intelligence of the House. And so we discuss a lot of issues in terms of insecurity of the country. And the House is made of 360 members, and 360 members, which means even your representatives are part of the House, and which means your representative were part of the resolutions that the House took in terms of removal of the service chiefs. And even the Young Parliamentarians Forum even met last week and still had the same resolutions that service chiefs should be replaced. What becomes of the resolution? Resolutions in the House are not laws, but when bills are passed, that's where you have but resolutions actually not laws, but are like advisory resolutions to government that, look, you need to do this on behalf of the Nigerian people as a representative of the people. But as far as the representative of the people, we have done what our people want. That, look, we have advised government that, look, service chiefs need to be replaced. What next? Ours is, to put more pressure and to look at what are those available legislative procedures and steps we need to take. That because after the resolution, I know that if insecurity persists, the next call might be, look, the House want to say, okay, let's invite the President to come and tell us why he has not removed the service chiefs, because the House had advised him on what to do. So those are steps that the House could and can take after, if the advisory role of the House is not yet taken. Yeah. So it depends on the mood and what the House really needs to take. So there are different and various steps that the House can take on that.
Do you get the sense, and possibly members of the House, some of your colleagues, do you feel that the executive is on the same page with the National Assembly on this matter?
So far, so good. I don't think we're on the same page, because if we are on the same page, the resolution of the House could have been taken. And I think that really differentiated the fact that some people were calling on the House that likely is a rubber stamp, or maybe we might not be able to voice out issues as they are, or to voice out issues of our members, of our constituents. And that, and especially on issues of insecurity, that is one issue and agenda that the House has been able to unite itself across party lines. The House has been able to unite itself across ethnic and religious lines. That, look, the issue of insecurity, once insurgents come, they don't ask you what party or what religion you are, and the strike. So we have come together as a people and as Nigerian representatives to say, look, this is what you need to do. Bring in new ideas, bring in fresh blood into the security structures and architect of the country. Mm-hmm. And as far as we are concerned, the House still stands by that resolution. And if the executive have not taken that part of the House, definitely you can't say that we are in the same line.
So the question is, how did the House come to this conclusion? What sort of investigation did you go through? Because before you come up with that sort of resolution, by the way, was it unanimous?
Absolutely, it was
unanimous.
unanimous. Nobody. I did not see a single person in the house. I was in the floor that day.
Right.
That was against the removal of the service chiefs.
So the question now
because,
arises that how did you come up, I mean, with that conclusion? Was there some form of investigation? Basically, it's just so Nigerians know the background to this.
You have real situations, like every member on daily basis have feedback from his constituents. There were motions, not just for one person, because that day, the motion that was carried out, that was sponsored by the chief whip of the house, had co-sponsors from various members that had issues. Menchika, Plateau, that week there were a lot of issues that have happened across the country. So all members across the states that had such insecurity situations co-sponsored the motion. So nobody rejected or objected or debated against the fact that we need fresh blood and to change the security chiefs and architects in the country. So it was a unanimous decision by the House.
Now, you are aware of what the Chief of Army Staff said, that the change of service chiefs may not completely solve the problem. How do you react to that, especially as a member of that intelligence committee?
Yeah, we will not say that it will not. There are things that even by perception you naturally see it changes. There are things that you say that, okay, look, naturally, if with the perception of you are not here, and you see people start adjusting. But once status quo remains for a longer period, even in civil service, you won't have a certain accountant in that place for long. You will have a lot of ideas on how to perpetrate crime or how to perpetrate fraud in that system. So, but when the system allows change, everybody, you are blessed with different ideas. And you would know who among the junior cadres have a certain answer or idea to such issues. So to us, we feel that, look, yes, the service chiefs have tested their wills. They have exhibited their gallantry of all the training they have had during their own time. And war is about change. We are in the 21st century. What the service chiefs learned during their time is not what the new guys are learning now. So we feel that, look, when new and fresh ideas are injected into the system, at least, no matter how, we'll have some certain... And you remember, when Burate came, the first few months, because he was somebody new, there was some certain level of some changes at that very particular period.
Yeah, but some would also argue that, the things that we see that we are contending with are the symptoms of deeper issues. Do you think we have been able to get a hold of those deeper issues? Some have cited these insecurity issues. They have cited unemployment, poor economic conditions as some of these things. Is there any way?
Absolutely.
These things can be looked at by the House?
Because you can't have in a year, just look at how many people are being deployed into the labor market by NYSC, almost 1 million, if I'm not, because you have batch A, batch B, batch C, and each batch has less than 300,000 people. So in a year, and when you don't have the capacity to absorb such number of people, even to 50%, definitely people, a lot of ideas will come from different guys.
But I think after that meeting that the leadership of the National Assembly had with the president, I mean, details of that, they didn't let it know.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
some of them were, I think the speaker was quoted to have spoken about, he referred to it as a knee-jerk decision to remove the service chiefs, wondering whether or not all of these fall under their job description. So doesn't that, to a large extent, put that decision, that resolution of the National Assembly?
Yeah, well, after the meeting, the only feedback we got was that there was a security committee that was set, and which included the leadership of the House and their own various meetings, which we will be able to know what comes out of the committee that was constituted, which has to do with the executive and leadership of the National Assembly. I think it's a 12-man committee with the feedback we got from the leadership. So we'll see what the committee will really come up with.
All right, we do have your colleague in Abuja as well. Let's toss the mic for that.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us Honorable Kalu Benjamin, who's the chairman House Committee on Media. And I'd like to, first of all, ask you quickly, well, while I welcome you to Sunrise Daily, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in.
Are you going to be speaking the mind of the House, or you're speaking as a member of the House?
At all times, I wear two caps, one for the House and one as a representative of my people, Ben the federal constituency.
Just so we're clear, so that you don't say that, oh, this I speak, you know, I speak as an individual or I speak for my people as a representative. Quickly tell us, bring us up to speed. My colleague Chamberlain just raised that point where the Speaker seemed to talk about or took a different stance from what the House had taken. So shortly after the House of Representatives had the resolution calling on the sack or calling for the sack of the service chiefs, they himself, that's the Speaker, and the Senate President had visited the President to communicate the decision of both chambers of the House and, of course, meet him on security matters as they now affect the country. And he had this to say. I'm trying to see if I can quickly find that particular line now, something along the lines of knee-jerk reaction. I'm going to quickly quote this. He says, many of us identify that something drastic has to be done. There's also the school of thought that says, since we're talking about banditry, kidnapping and murders, what we have, or what have the armed forces got to do with that? Anywhere in the world. So the question then arises that if he changes the service chiefs, does it address the issues of kidnapping and banditry? The Army, Navy, and Air Force are outfits set up to tackle external aggression. It is the police that is set up for internal security, such as we are all witnessing. I don't know if that is the statement of the President, or that is now the stance, or that was the stance of the Speaker after he met with the President. Was there any feedback that came to the House after that meeting?
Of course, the position of the Speaker of the House is in line with the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria. Resolutions, recommendations, in parliamentary practice all over the world, they are recommendation. And he was speaking from the point of the Constitution. The Constitution says in Section 214 that internal security belongs to the police. And we're talking about banditry, we're talking about kidnapping, and some of them outside insurgency, which falls under what the military can do under Section 217. The police has a major role to play. So and I agree with Mr. Speaker when he said, it is not just about removing the service chiefs. Yes, it's part of it. But beyond that, it is important that we begin to put the right expectation on the right people who has the responsibility. So the responsibility is on the police.
Would you say then that the decision of the House, the resolution of the House, was a knee-jerk one, that they hadn't considered thoroughly who had responsibility for what when they called for the sack of the service chiefs?
Not at all. It is the representative function of the House, as one of the functions of members of House of Representatives, to feel the pulse of the people. And when you feel the pulse of the people, you make a recommendation. Just like my colleague said, backwards, we have made our recommendation to the executive that this is what the people we represent want. But that is not the fullness of it. It is not the total resolution or solution to the problem. The problem is the police. We should be able to look at our police and give them the capacity that they need.
That was not part of the resolution, was it?
No, it's not part of the resolution.
It sounds like an afterthought.
No, it's not an afterthought. A resolution does not mean that is the entire... Let's get this right. The House resolved that these service chiefs, we need to change the blood there. We need to bring in new blood for them to be able to serve us better. That is one part of it.
That resolution was reached on the basis of the current security situation in the country.
Yes, it is one of it. Beyond that, I still maintain that the constitutional provision should not be thrown to the trash can. The police need to be given the right capacity. Look at what the United Nations says. The expectation of the United Nations with regards to ratio between police and civilian, police-civilian ratio, is 1:400. If you go to Singapore, they have 1:186. If you go to South Africa, 1:366. If you go to Egypt, 1:136. Now, if you come to Nigeria, the last position made by the IG of police was that police was at 301,767 policemen. And this includes those civilians who are working for the police. Now, you divide that over 200 million people. What are you getting? You are getting about 1:662 per policeman. Now, if you now take the VIP, because every VIP wants a policeman to be attached to him, if you reduce that from that 301,000, you are having almost 1,000, one policeman taking care of 1,300 and something. That is placing undue burden on the police. And how do you expect them to perform at the optimal expectation? Now, if you go down the line, you find out.
The question I'm asking is, why didn't this thought process feature in the resolution which was eventually passed? That's the question I'm asking.
That was on the service chiefs. We have taken steps with regards to bill. The House works with either bills or resolution. Now, on bills, the House has made effort since last year through House Bill number 120, which was sponsored by Gwani Gideon, who was saying that we need to put in Nigerian Police Services Bill that will be able to take care of the gaps that we have found out in our laws. That was followed also by the one sponsored by Sergius Ogun in House Bill 450, which was calling for the amendment of the Police Act, and also supported by the SB, that is Senate Bill 181, which was sponsored by Senator Yika. What are they all saying? Though they have different, they are different in nature, but there is a convergence. One of those convergence, one of the places they have a consensus agreement is that the police need to be given capacity. 5 years training. After every 5 years to train the police, because the capacity of the police is not as it's supposed to be. That is one. They also agreed that we need to break down our policing to be able to incorporate community policing, which is in line because these problems are localized and we cannot use a general policing strategy to solve them.
Okay.
Now, if you go down...
I will let you respond further to what the House intends to do with the police or how they intend to support the police.
Yes.
But let me quickly ask you this question as to whether you support those who are going to be protesting today, or those who have planned a protest today to protest the sacking of the service chief. They want the service chief sacked.
It is their right of expression. It's their constitutional right. It's just that they should do it without violence. The children, the citizens of this country have the right to express themselves. I'm in support of anybody who wants. We cannot cage people's rights. It is their constitutional right to express themselves.
You've seen the reservations of the presidency. I don't know if you have.
No, can you let me know?
Let me see if I can quickly read it out to you here. The presidency has expressed reservations. They're saying that this is an attempt to politicize the sacking of the service chiefs. They're blaming the opposition for this. Let me see if I can find that statement. This is it. The presidency wishes to caution a section of the political class, because they believe it's politics, against misleading the public and inciting protest against the heads of military institutions. This imminent gathering is the latest in a series of demonstrations orchestrated by the opposition to embarrass the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. This is their thoughts on it. They think that this is the call for the sack of service chiefs is an attempt to politicize the security situation. Do you agree?
What I agree, and this is Benjamin Carlos speaking, is the group that want to do protests, if they have approached the security institution, in this case the police, to get permission to do the protest, and it's going to be a non-violent protest, they have the right to do so.
Let's quickly play for you just how the speaker said what he said shortly after that meeting with the president on security. Oh yes, we still have Honorable Benjamin Kalu here with us. Well, are we seeing the changes is the question.
The changes?
The changes that the speaker was talking about. Are we seeing the changes? Are you seeing any sign of changes, at least?
Of course. Of course, if you see the budget, like he mentioned funding, he mentioned that they need to increase the number of police, just like what I was saying, that the police, the ratio between police-civilian ratio is very low. We need to do something about it. So our police academies, we need to make them more, efficient to be able to churn out more number of policemen. And if you look at funding, like he mentioned, in 2019, the budget was 1.03 trillion that was meant for security. In this budget, we upped it from 1.03 trillion to 1.54
The question
trillion.
I'm asking, I mean, this is what has been done already.
Yes.
What I'm asking is, since that meeting they've had with the president, he's called for more traction. Are you seeing that on the part of the executive? Because only yesterday, we saw more people being killed in Katsina, the president's home state. About 30 people were murdered by bandits, and the president was talking about revenge and, counter-revenge. Would you say that you've seen a change of tactics from our security agencies, despite the constraints that they face?
We're talking. The meeting they had was about 2 weeks or thereabouts.
Indeed.
So it's too short a time for you to begin to see the implementation of a plan that had been laid. This is not like a classroom issue where the class monitor is asked to dust the table and the next day it is dusted. This is about strategy. And having passed the message to the police that need to step up their work. I've seen that the police have been given more enablement. I've seen that they are now getting in charge of the banditry. It is not yet complete, but they are taking over from places where the military were handling before. And the report we are getting, it may not be so perfect, but it shows that there is the political will in the mind of the police, if given the right support, to be able to, solve the problem Nigeria and all of us are clamoring for. He didn't mention that there's a special fund was also created, also that will help the police achieve their targets.
Honorable, I'm afraid we have to go. I have to leave it there with you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Honorable Kalu Benjamin is the Chairman, House Committee on Media. It's back to you guys in Lagos.
Well, you heard some of those responses, but the thing about that is this. Now, if that was the response of the Speaker, what is the National Assembly doing about? Because if he said, look, those chaps have nothing directly all over the world, according to him, about that, what is the National Assembly doing about correcting some of these ills?
Well, I don't want us to confuse the response of the Speaker with the resolution of the House. Yeah, the resolution of the House is the entirety of the House, and the response of the Speaker is a response of one person. So the Speaker, yes, he's heading the entire House. But if you get his response very well, he is saying that, yes, the service chief is not just about removing them, but there are other issues. And like from what Kalu said, some of the areas that the House is working on. And again, funding of the police, the House we still have a bill that has to do with the police reforms, the police reform funding. That had to do with funding the police, having a bill that specifically has to do with funding the police. And once that bill comes in, the issue of state police, funding state police and other areas, all is encompassed in that bill. So we're doing a lot on that, and which I can assure you that, look, we're looking at community policing, we're looking at the issue of state police, and we're looking at other areas that, look, what can we do to look like us in Plateau State? We have what we call Operation Rainbow, which the locals are involved in policing our own community, which the governor recently has assured us that he's going to put more emphasis on Operation Rainbow. So there is a lot that the House can and is doing. And I can assure you, there is no way, and it's not possible, that, excuse me, that 360 of us will just sit down and our people are being killed. Is there improvement? No, because just last week, those few days, people were killed after the resolution of the House. We have had over 60 people killed after the resolution of the House in Borno and likewise in Katsina. So we are still looking into the issue, still putting pressure on the issue. and whosoever have a solution to this issue should come on board. And the executive, my advice to the executive is go back to the drawing board. Okay. It's not about because the opposition is talking about it and you're saying that, well, because it's opposition. No. Right.
We'll come back to you when we return in just a moment. Stay with us.
Well, you're welcome back. We're still discussing security and some of the moves by the National Assembly to ensure that this is, prosecuted in the appropriate way. We still have Honorable Dachang Bagus with us here in the studio. And, just before the break, we were discussing the visit of the leadership of the National Assembly to the President, where we still don't know major details about this. But what we have so far, I recall the Senate President saying, we came to the President to ask what we should do. I'm sure you probably picked that when he was speaking to the press, what we should do. So we didn't get a sense of the National Assembly coming and saying, this is a resolution we have. This is what we should do. It was more like the President is telling us what we should do. So, they didn't go there as individuals. They went representing the National Assembly. So don't you still think there's a disconnect between what the National Assembly decided and what the leadership discussed with the President?
Yeah, well, at times a response can be misunderstood to some certain extent. But I know as presiding officers, if they were not in support of the resolution of the House, the day that the resolution was taken, they have the wisdom to give it to the nays. But for them to give it to the ayes, which means they are in support of the resolution. So maybe the response that might have come from the meeting might be misunderstood. But I still stand that the resolution of the House that they presided upon still stand, because that is a resolution that came out legally from the House. But the statement that they might come out with it from the President, from the presidency, that's not what is binding on members of the House. So if that misunderstanding or misconception is there, well, that is, I wouldn't say that was a slip of tongue, but what I stand with, I work with facts, and the fact that we have at hand is the resolution of members of the National Assembly that the security architecture of the country need to be restructured. That is the resolution of the House, and that's what members of the House still stand on that.
You referenced the presidency just now, and then of course in closing with Honorable Benjamin the other time, you heard the quote that Malkwe read, which was the presidency's response to those who want to protest against the retainment of the service chiefs there. The presidency is alluding to the politicization of that process. Do you agree?
I don't agree that because people want to view out their grievance against the security architecture that is being politicized. No. Well, they have executive that might have their own willpower or whatsoever to say, but to us, if people that send us as their representative, millions of Nigerians, and they gave us a mandate, we came, we said it on the floor of the House, and there is no changes, they may think that, look, we are not doing, so they want to go on the streets, look, we want to voice it out on our own. If what our representatives have said or done has not really carried much weight, then we will do it. So freedom of expression. Because we believe, like I said earlier, yes, the president came into power in 2015 and he brought in the best as of that time. And if you check the security advisor, he was director of intelligence 2009 to 2011 when the insurgents really started, so which means he's well informed on the issues. Check the chief of defense staff, they were people that were well informed with the issues on ground at that particular period. But it's over this period of 7 years now. So we feel that, look, people that are now on ground should be able to, people that have come out from with fresh and refresher courses should be able to come into the scene. And again, and like I was even saying, that look, even the police need to be more encouraged and brought into the scene of securing the system entirely. So these are issues that, yes, they are systematical, they are technical, issues that we need to look at, even the constitutional aspect. The Southwest has come out with Amotekun. The North Central too is still talking. So, because...
Are they coming up with something?
North Central?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the governors have met, so I wouldn't say... well, the Northeast...
Now you know something is about to happen.
Well, no, I'm not saying anything. I'm not a governor.
I know, but people can tell.
No, but, you know, agitation from the people, you'll be able to... Like, the Southwest, all the governors embrace it. Now the House of Assembly members are having public hearing on it. And if it works in the Southwest, your own state, well, I think you're all from the Southwest. If it's working in Southwest, definitely the North Central will want to key into
so
it.
there you go. So that's the
I'm
good
not saying...
No. We didn't say anything.
I'm not the executive there because I don't have the power.
Well, at least you represent the people. You know what the people are talking
as representative
about.
of the people, I can assure you that the people will really want to see that, look, whatsoever possible solution that will come on board to solve this the issue of insecurity, everybody will key into it. Look, I've had civil servants even say, even they did not pay us our salary and they carry the money to solve the issue of insecurity, we are in for it because it's better to have...
There you go.
It's better to have to live than to be waiting for something that you don't know when it will even coming up. But sincerely, the issue of insecurity is something that we should not politicize it. So I expect that the executive should really open its hand to bring everybody on board.
We need to
see how we
go
can
at that
solve
point.
the situation.
Honorable Dachon Bagos is a member of the Anti-Corruption Committee and also a member of the Security Committee,
National
Security and Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives. He's also a member of the PDP. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We're back in a moment. Stay with us.